main event, the CFP, the quarterfinal round of the college football playoff, and it begins on New Year's Eve at night on Tuesday, December 31st with the Fiesta Bowl, college football playoff quarterfinal matchup between Penn State and there we go. Boise State. I blanked on it for a minute. Yeah, Penn State 11-point favorites, 52 the total here in this game. Penn State, let's really do a deep dive of that game because now we're talking Penn State in this matchup against Boise, laying, a pretty sizable number. We're talking 11, and it's gone up a bit. It opened 10, 10.5. It's up to 11. It's gone up slightly, but it hasn't gone up astronomically here on Penn State. Looks dominant on paper, right? They just completely dominated SMU, and the defense feasted on Kevin Jennings and a bunch of mistakes in that game and ended up romping. Lost in the mix, though, of that game is some things that would concern me. To me, I come out of that game thinking, okay, Penn State rolled over SMU. Good for them. They're going to have to play better in this game because, to me, Kevin Jennings and SMU, especially in the first quarter, they were moving the ball. They were moving the ball deep into Penn State territory. They'd get it inside the 20, and then there's that disaster play from Kevin Jennings. Or they'd take a sack, or they'd take a penalty, or they'd miss a field goal. That's the kind of shit we were seeing from SMU early in that game because early in that game, they were moving the football effectively against Penn State. But again, you just can't overcome the failures in the red zone, the failures on, field goal attempts, penalties that took, field position away. Obviously the 2 pick sixes were demoralizing that Kevin Jennings threw in that game. But when he wasn't making mistakes, and unfortunately made too many, and it cost them in that 38-10 loss, there were, SMU was moving the ball. Let's not forget they still put up, almost 300 yards. The total yardage difference between the two teams wasn't as great as you would think for a 38-10 beatdown. And it was really Penn State's defense, really, really doing all the work. To me, for Drew Aller, it wasn't a phenomenal game. It was actually a solid game for the run game. They just wore down Penn State late, Singleton and Allen. But I was not impressed by Aller. I don't think Aller played a great game, and he didn't have to because of.
Are you ever impressed?
Yeah.
Does he really ever impress you?
No. So, it's one of those games where I come out of that game, it looks like a blowout, and they owned it for sure. But I'm not impressed. I don't feel like I'm ready to lay the 11 with Penn State. Now, I do admit, Boise State here in this game, Maddox Madsen's the kind of fucking quarterback I could see making some of the mistakes Kevin Jennings made. Okay, and that's where I'm a little bit concerned about backing Boise. As you can tell, I don't have a strong, really, opinion on this game. It's one of those where, as of now, I don't have this. I don't feel like I'm going to be involved in anything significantly from a side perspective. The total sitting at 52. The key is going to be for Boise. Can they get the great Heisman Trophy candidate? He didn't win it, but he was certainly in the mix as a candidate. Ashton Jeanty. Can they get him going on the ground? Because if this has to be a one-dimensional through-the-air offense for Boise, it's not going to be successful, in my opinion, here against Penn State. When you look at Penn State and the numbers against stopping the run, they've been great this year. 7th in the country against the run, 100.3 rushing yards per game allowed. Very, very impressive. SMU got absolutely zero going on the ground against them in that game. But Oregon, is a team that I go back again to that Big Ten championship game where they gave up the 45 points. Oregon was able to run for 183 against that Penn State defense where Jordan James went for 87. Noah Whittington went for 82 against that Penn State defense. And to me, the Boise State run game is certainly more prolific and potent than SMU. And so I'm kind of back and forth on this game. I could see Penn State owning the trenches. It wouldn't totally shock me because, look, they just have bigger beef, along the lines, offensive and defensive lines than Boise. It's that simple. But at the same point in time, you're talking about a Boise team that's certainly got more of a run game and certainly a way more dynamic back coming to the table here in Ashton Jeanty than anything SMU saw, and more like what Oregon gave Penn State or showed Penn State. And Penn State had issues against the run in that game. So it's a very, very tough game for me. I think you can make good cases to lay it and say this is going to be another Penn State where they just roll over a team where they just got better athletes and better, personnel, no question. And as Bama Boy says, I can understand it. That's definitely the case. As I've said, the lines of scrimmage, definite advantage Penn State, both sides, offensive line and defensive line. And maybe that's going to be enough to roll here against Boise. But 11, and you get away from everything was set up perfectly too, Connor Mack, situationally. SMU is coming to the cold weather from Dallas. You're at Happy Valley, Beaver Stadium, the whiteout. Certainly had the home crowd in your favor. This is now a neutral site in Tempe, the Fiesta Bowl. So you don't have that same advantage as far as the home field and the home crowd and all that if you're Penn State here either. This, for me, is, from a side perspective, the toughest side for me as far as the 4 quarterfinals. I'm probably not going to have anything. I'll probably bet something live if I see a good number or I see something in the game that makes me think momentum might swing in one direction. But nothing for me side-wise. Can we get – I'm leaning over here, but I don't love that. I feel we're indoors. And that's another thing, too. We saw 3 unders, and 1 over in the first round, but we were outdoors in all the games. And all the 3 unders were the cold weather places, right? Ohio State, Tennessee went over as well.
That got over, didn't it?
That got over as well. My bad. But we have controlled climates here in all these games. Fiesta Bowl, Peach Bowl, Sugar Bowl. They're all indoors in dome stadiums. And then the Rose Bowl in Pasadena is the one outdoor place, and you don't have to worry about weather. It'll be fine. It'll be beautiful like it always is for the Rose Bowl. So scoring should be enhanced by the climate we're going to be playing these 4 quarterfinal games in. So I lean over here in this game, but I'm stumped on the side. And as of now, no bet for me. C-Mac, what do you think here, the first quarterfinal in the Fiesta Bowl?
Yeah, Penn State definitely, I think, when it comes down to you look at these two teams, has the better defense. And they did. And then, of course, Jennings with the mistakes, it showed. I thought them just being at home in that cold weather right away just kind of to help them out. And then SMU, just the mistakes, the 4th down right when they were down there early and just killed them. It was downhill from there. It just was flat over for them. I don't really trust Drew Aller at all. I think they could run on this team. Boise's secondary, I thought, got a little bit better as the year went on in some of these bigger games that they had. I still don't trust their secondary, really. And one key with Boise, of course, is Genty. I mean, that's the big one here. He's going to get the rock a ton. I think he's going to have some success in this game. You hit on it with Jennings, could this guy have a bad game? It's Madsen. All year long, he didn't. Yeah, I mean, he didn't. And even in that Oregon game in the earlier part of the year, maybe that's all he needs to do here. I think he had a pick in that game, and maybe he had a touchdown or just nothing, but he just had 150 yards. Maybe he's got to make a few more plays. But I think he had 22 touchdowns on the year, only 3 picks. If he doesn't have one of these awful games, I think Boise State's in this one. I think they can hang around a little bit. James Franklin gets the big win. Hoo-ha. Do you want to back him again and lay doubles? Not at home here. I don't. I think Penn State might win this football game. I think Boise's in this. They're in it. They're going to be prepared for this one. So I lean to take the 11 with Boise, which I wanted nothing really to SMU. I thought they'd get killed, and they did. But the Penn State defense could be the one suffocating thing. And that really jump-started the game last week, the pick sixes. Yeah. That was right away.
Penn State was struggling to move the football for early parts of that game. And SMU was moving the football. And then, of course, the pick sixes, and it really gave life to Penn State's defense, and it sucked a lot of the, air out of the balloon for SMU's offense, and then that's when the struggle started. But before those pick sixes, they were moving it, and then they just did those interceptions were just costly at the end of the day, and that's what ended up hurting.